Hi, it's Martin and welcome to another video on my Knit365 YouTube channel. Today's video is my February roundup. It's an action-packed episode, I think. There's quite a lot in front of me. So this is my February roundup where I chat about all of the things I got up to during the month of February. We do have some finished objects. We do have some new cast-ons. We do have an old whip. We do have some spinning and some plans for the month ahead. So, hi, welcome. If you are new here, my name is Martin. Thank you for giving me a little bit of your time. I live in Cardiff in South Wales, and these roundups are a chance for me to grab all of the things that I've worked on during the month and share that with you all. What I've been up to and challenges, successes, and everything in between. If you are a returning viewer, of course, welcome back. Thank you so much for giving me a bit of your time today. We've got some funny lighting here. It is 1 o'clock on Sunday as I record this. It is Sunday the 2nd of March, and we haven't got a heat wave at all. We've got a lot of sun in the UK, which is quite welcome after a really, really rainy January, but it's causing havoc. There's shadows and it's causing havoc and chaos with filming, because with the blinds up, it's too bright. With the blinds down, it's kind of too dark. So they're kind of halfway out of the sunlight where it isn't. We're just going to go with it because I've got band this evening. I play in a brass band, for those of you that don't know. I've got band this evening. We've got a competition next weekend. No, weekend after next. And I've got a 4-hour rehearsal this afternoon, 4 till 8. So I want to get this recorded. And I said, I think it's going to be an action-packed episode. So you're going to have to, hopefully, forgive the light, if that's okay. Look, you can see the shadows on the ceiling. It's very weird. But hopefully the sun will move around the windows and it'll all be okay. If I hold yarn up, that's great. It looks great in real life. It's actually quite good for the colours of the yarn. Spoiler-ish. So yeah, thank you. I feel like it's going to be one of those videos, folks. Strap in. So yeah, thank you very much for giving me some of your time. This is going to be a roundup video, which are some of my favourite videos to chat about, because I just get to grab loads of things and share them with you. So I hope that you are going to sit comfortably for the next 45 minutes or so. I hope you've got a project to keep you company. I'm yet to work out how I can do these chatty blogs to camera and crochet or knit. I've still not quite mastered that yet. So I don't have a project to work on. I'm just going to chat to you, lovely folks. And yeah, let's jump straight in. So I'm not really sure where to start. I still haven't found my whip book where I like to talk about how many works in progress I've got. I have started one new thing and I have finished 2 things. So we are going in the right direction. I'm still going to say it's about 12 whips. I will really make, and I think I said this in the January roundup, I will make a concerted effort to try and find the book and count everything. I think, oh no, do I know where the book is? What was the problem in January? Do I know where the book is, but I don't know where some of the bags are? There's bags missing. There's some form of drama, and I'm not quite sure why I haven't counted them. Maybe I just not prioritised it. But we'll go with 12 or 13 whips. I have finished 2 things, which I'll show in a moment, and there will be a shawl dance at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. But I've only started one thing, I think. 2 things technically, but one of them doesn't really count because one of them was a review. So last week's video was a review video that was very kindly sponsored by Hooks and Needles. If you want to go and understand and find out more about that, please hop back. I really enjoyed finding out more about that subscription box, and you can go and find out more about that on last week's video. So hop back and watch that. I have started to weigh in and out my yarn and my fibre, as I've said, but I haven't counted that in or out as a finished object because it was a review that I was really happy to do. So I've not counted that, so it's net neutral. But I did start that in February, but we're not counting that. That's not my personal, it is my personal thing, because I've made it and I'm going to give it to one of the nieces. Should I count it? I haven't counted it and it's going to mess up my numbers. I'll work out whether I'm going to add it. Maybe I'll add it to the spreadsheet just so we don't lose count of it. But I've started one thing this month and I finished two, so I'm very happy. We'll do a little happy dance. So, shall we start with that finished objects? I have shown these off in varying forms, I think, in previous videos. So my first finished object was my Hyper Knit Along shawl. So this was the Glow Hair Frost shawl by Stephen West. And I started this over Christmas using the weekly advent from Gemma of The Little Grey Girl. It has now been blocked and it is gorgeous, if I do say so myself. So we've got this gorgeous orangey colour into the pinks, the purples, two purples, and then the blue. So this was Gemma's weekly advent. And what I loved about doing this project is I've never done the Hyper Knit Along before. I usually finish the Mystery Knit Along and I'm a bit shawled out. And I'm like, oh, do I want to do it? Do I not? And I've never done one. But I decided I was going to do it this year and I was going to put it into Fate's hands and use the weekly advent from Gemma. And I wouldn't know what the colours would be. I would just work out how to make them work. And I think they look glorious. It's got a lovely drape about it. It's really lightweight. And it's got some really lovely details on it, like that fur rib stitch there. And these lovely little kind of like plants, like flowers with the baubles. We've got a little bit of cabling in that purpley section there with some lace work. I can just about see through the camera. And then into more lace and then into the bind off. So I finished my Hyper Knit Along and I'm so pleased with how it turned out. It's a really, really lovely lightweight shawl. And I took it to Unravel. That was my plan, to try and get this finished in time to take to Unravel, which I did. And I was able to show it off and show Gemma. And yeah, it's just a great little shawl. Not a little shawl, like 5 skeins. But because I've got a spreadsheet, I can tell you. So this weighs 238 grams. So I've used 238 grams of yarn making this shawl. So on my, let me just go back. For those of you that are watching this for the first video, hi. What I'm doing this year is I'm not on a yarn ban. Nope, we've tried that, doesn't work. But what I am trying to do is be more mindful with my purchases. And what I would love to do by the end of the year is use more yarn than I buy. So what I'm going to do is every month I'm going to weigh in what I buy and weigh out what I finish. And then hopefully we're in a deficit by the end of the year. And then that means I'm trying to use more of my stash up and finish some long running works in progress, because if I can finish those, I can claim the yarn as being used, finished this year. So this used up 238 grams. So I've got quite a lot of yarn left because I had 5 100-gram skeins. So I've definitely got enough to make a pair of socks, probably a pair of socks for me and a pair of socks for Mark. If I'm clever with the yardage, so I've obviously got much less of the blue because that's used on the final border than I have of, say, the orange where I started. But if I'm clever with my yarn management, I can definitely get 2 pairs of socks complete. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. Like, it's gorgeous. And I do think I'm going to try and do the same thing again this year. I seem to be on a bit of a shawl thing at the moment. So I'm really thinking that I'll do the Hyper Knit Along again if Stephen runs it. And then I'll use a weekly advent and just let the colours decide what they want to be. These aren't my colours. They're not colours that I would usually buy, colours I would usually wear. But for a really lovely, lightweight and kind of pop of colour, it's like no other shawls I've got. So I'm really happy with how that turned out. So that was my first proper finished object of the year. So we'll pop that down. My second finished object of the year was also another shawl. And if you watch the Unravel video, you will have seen this shawl because I showed it off in the episode where I finished my exploration station. So another pattern by Stephen West, and this is yarn by Anton of the Raw Wool Company. Sorry, I'm distracted by that shadow, and I'm trying to work out which one of the blinds I can go and adjust, because that's actually, right, bear with, I'll be back. That's better and less distracting. Right, I've just lowered some of the blinds even further. So, onwards we push despite the weather. So yes, this is the Exploration Station by Stephen West and Using Yarn by Anton of the Raw Wool Company. This was another weekly advent that I had. And again, I knew that the colours were going to be on this palette because the Raw Wool Company, their ethos is yarn as the sheep intended. So they don't dye their yarn. It's very natural colours based off the breed of the sheep. I'll link Anton's channel below if you want to go and find out more about the yarn, the process. Anton's got his own YouTube channel that he started. So you'll find out more about that if you head over to Anton. So I knew there was always going to be these neutral colours. And I was trying to work out what to make with them. And I thought an exploration station has been on my making list for many, many years, but I've never got around to doing it. I was kind of put off by the brioche. I'm not a massive brioche lover, but I am learning to love it. I'm getting better with it. So I decided to use these colours. And at some point, I think I've made the last 5 years or 6 years of the Mystery Knit-alongs by Stephen West that come along every September and October. But at some point, I'd love to go back and have the whole back catalogue of all the MCALs. So this also then was one of the Mystery Knit-alongs from a number of years ago. So actually that ticks that list as well. So I got to use my weekly advent as well as then ticking off one of the past editions. So if I just give you a little close up. The brioche is just so squishy. I wish you could have squish vision.
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
Shh, I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything like her name then, did I? No. So I wish you had squish vision so that you could see how squishy the brioche is. But it's really lovely. We've got these lovely big yarn overs. Although they did keep scaring me because as I was knitting it, every now and then I'd quickly look down, I'd see a hole. I'm like, oh, I've dropped a stitch. And then it's the yarn over. But no word of a lie, it happened every other day. And then you've got these really lovely wedge sections. So again, really lovely drape. So this was done on a 4.5mm needle. So both of these are fingering weight yarns, but actually the merino from Gemma, this was done on a 3.75mm needle. And this was done on a 4.5mm needle. So very different, or slightly different thicknesses in terms of their fingering, sort of 4-ply yarn. But it's just a really lovely sized shawl. The difference with this, I had to take it off a lot at Unravel. It's very warm. Now, again, that's because it's 100% wool, but it is lovely to wear. It's such, I'm not sensitive to wool. I really like woolly wool. And I know that some folks aren't a fan of woolly wool. I don't think this is scratch at all. I can wear this, I could have a little pillow out of it and I could easily have a little sleep. So I know lots of you are merino people and would really love the softness of a merino. I think this is as soft, and this brioche section especially is softer, I think, than merino. So I'm really enjoying having this now. And again, this is kind of, no, it's not like another shawl that I've got because I don't have any in this kind of natural colours. But it is so warm. On a cold Sunday morning, when I'm up early and Mark is still asleep and I'm up doing some knitting, I've been wearing this and popping it around my shoulders just to keep me a little warm. Yeah, love it. So I'm really, really happy with how this one turned out. And again, this was on my kind of my stretch plan. I set myself quite some challenging goals at the beginning of the year that I knew that Anton and Gemma were going to be at the Unravel show a couple of weekends ago. So I set myself a target in January to try and finish both of them so that I could then take show and tell and I could show off the finished projects. So on the weigh-in, this weighs 287 grams. So there were 4 colours of 100 grams. So again, I've got some yarn left over, and Anton does have some patterns for some hats and neckerchiefs. So at some point I'll work out what to do with the leftovers, and I'll make another. I'll use that yarn up, and I'll probably make something in Anton, make a pattern by Anton. So yeah, there we go. I finished 2 shawls in February. So my finished yarn total is 525 grams in February, and that's my running total so far. So, because I hadn't finished anything in January. So I'm going to keep checking that in as we're going every month. Purchase-wise, I've weighed the things that I bought from Unravel. I'm not going to show them all off again. They were in the Unravel video. If you want to see what I bought at the show, please hop back and watch the Unravel video after you've watched this one. But purchase-wise, I bought the yarn by Nish of Knotted by Nish, which I will show you in a moment. It's one of my whips. So that's the Wicked yarn that I bought. So I had 450 grams of that one. I bought 75 grams of Toff yarn to make a hat for my niece, which I'll talk about in a moment. And I'm also part of the Toff subscription for their conservation club. So we had a 100-gram ball of grey to make Moby the whale. So far this year, I've bought in 625 grams of yarn. So I am down 100 because I bought in 625 grams and I've used 525. So I'm currently in a positive position, which is not where I want to be. I want to be in a negative position. But that's not too bad, right? I'm 100 grams of yarn up. I can live with that. That's 100 grams. That's quite good so far. So I had a real good bump getting those 2 shawls done. I need to work out how I can do some kind of visual that I can put. Maybe next month we'll have some graphs. I've now got a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet's it's more just like notes. So I need to work out how to turn the spreadsheet into a lovely looking graph. And then we can put a graph up and we can hopefully see going down. We don't want to see it going up. We want to see it going down. So we'll see that go down. So that's my finished objects. I have those 2 finished objects and I am currently 100 grams of yarn up, but that's okay. So before we get on to whips, let's do spinning because I don't have a lot of spinning to show you. I do have one finished spin that I'm going to show off very, very briefly, like the tiniest flash. You will have seen it if you follow me on Instagram, which is why I'll show you the tiniest flash of it, but I don't really want to talk about it because there's a separate video coming where I talk about this yarn and what I'm going to do with it. And I'm going to do a year-long project, even though we're in March. I'm behind. It's fine. I've got a plan. So this is the January Fibre Club by Gemma of The Little Grey Girl, which I've subscribed to. And I've made this. And I'm so chuffed with it. Like, proper. So this has been washed and thwacked. When you thwack it, that's the term I keep hearing people talking about. I don't know if that's an official definition, but look how thin, look. That's like proper DK. Like, don't get me wrong, there's still like this bit here. That's still probably like an Aran. That's possibly like a fingering weight. I'm really chuffed. So I've made that. So I want to show that off just because activity-wise, I've been working on that this month. But that's all I'm going to say on the matter because there will be more on that. It might be next week's video. Might be next week's video. Might be next week's video. It might be the week after, but it will be coming. Spoiler alert. come back next week and you'll find out more. But that's the only spinning I did in February. I did quite a lot of spinning in January when I did Spinuary, and I had a spinner for Christmas. If you haven't watched those videos, I taught myself to spin. Episode 1 is a journey. From setting it up and starting and to actually and it working, through to now being able to spin some yarn. I did quite a lot of spinning in January, and I didn't do anything in February until I did that braid. So on the count, so I'm going to still do the same. I'm going to weigh the fibre in, and then I'm going to weigh the finished yarn out. So I am in a deficit for my fibre. So this year I've bought in 520 grams of fibre. Most of that came from the Unravel purchases. So again, watch that video if you want to see what the fibre was. But actually spinning out this year, I've spun just over 600 grams of yarn from the really thick and thin yellow fibre that I started with, that was just 40 grams of finished yarn in the end of it that I wasted so much, through to the green yarn, the brown yarn that you'll remember. There's the multicoloured rainbowy twist yarn. There's the blue fibre from Gemma. And then there's the 5 bats from the fibre box from Charmaine of Yarn Things that I've spun up. So I've got another 7 of those to go. It was a club of 10 at Christmas. No, 12. Was it 12? I think it was 12. So I've got 7 of those to go. So I've spun up 603 grams and I've only bought in 520. So we're in a deficit. So we can do a little dance. I'm hoping there's going to be lots of dances every month and I'm using more. And it's actually quite motivational to think I'm using more of my stash. I'm getting stuff out and I'm finishing things. So now that does mean I've bought in like 600 grams of finished yarn, but I didn't buy the yarn, if that makes sense. So I'm going to count that into my hand spun stash. Got little labels, I'm going to weigh it all out. But I bought in the fibre and I have spun the fibre and turned it into yarn. So that's my plan. So I'm really happy with that. So fibre-wise, I've had a really good start to the year. Right, excuse me, slurp of pop. Okay, so shall we do whips or new cast-ons? Let's do new cast-ons and then we'll do plans. Yes, we'll do new cast-ons, then we'll do plans for the month. So at Unravel, I purchased this lovely bag by Hyde & Hammer. It's very fluffy now from the yarn that I've been knitting on. And I wound up the yarn that I bought from Nish. So this is super chunky, and it's the Wicked colourway. So this is knotted by Nish. And I don't have a black light because I gave the black lights to the kids for Christmas, my nieces and nephew. But if you shone a black light on this, it would glow ultraviolet. It's very cool. This was Nish's Wicked colourway. And I've had a pattern in my queue forever on Ravelry that I really wanted to make. So, you know me, gung-ho. Did I swatch? No, more on that in a moment. But I got all the wool, and I wound the 450 grams. So I had a 250 gram mass mega braid, and then 2 100 grams. So that's enough to make the shawl. And I had a very lovely evening. It took me 2 hours to do it, and I wound it by hand onto one big magic ball. And I was away with band 2 weekends ago. So I started this in February. It was my new cast on. And I was away with band, and we were going to Oxford, so I had about 8 hours on a bus, 4 hours each way. So I thought, that's a great project. Big needles, 8mm needles. It's a great project to take with me. So this is how far I got. So I think the colours look amazing. I'm really, really happy with how the colours turn out. So this is going to be the Decemberist shawl by Melanie Berg. And it starts here with a tabular cast on. You set it up and it's going to be a triangular shape. So it just grows outwards and then you have a lace section on the bottom. So I've done quite a lot of knitting. Big 8mm needles. I was having a very lovely time. And as I was looking at this, I was going, it's growing quite quickly. It doesn't look very big though. So I was trying to picture in my mind, following the pattern. I got to the number of pattern repeats that it said. And you're increasing, you keep this central column and then you increase in different parts of the pattern, which I'm halfway through a row, or I was halfway through a row. And then that'll be the flat edge. But I was doing this on the bus, so this took me, this is maybe about 3 hours of knitting. And yeah, really happy, really loving it. And then it said, you finish section 1, move on to section 2. And section 2 is the lace. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? That's not the finished, apparently that is. So it's like, okay, put it in the group chat with with my knitting friends, and they were like, did you swatch? I was like, what do you think? So I managed to find a ruler on the internet that was true to scale on your phone. So pop that and counted my stitches, and my gauge was way off. A shawl for a child, maybe. Not so much a shawl for me. So I think you meant to have, it's either 11 or 12 stitches per 4 inches. And I had 7. 7 stitches in 4 inches. No, sorry. You're meant to have 7 stitches in 4 inches, and I had 11. Very different. Like, that's not going to grow. I might gain a stitch when I wash and block it. I'm not gaining that many stitches. So, yeah, it sat in the naughty corner. And I was like, okay, great. And I think what was making me then kind of question, I'm really bad at measuring like how much yarn I've got left on a ball. So like, for example, that was a 25-gram ball. How much is that? I don't know. I look at that and think that's not going to be enough to do 1 row on my blanket. It probably is enough to do 1 and to do 2 rows. But I always feel like I'm quite bad at guessing how much yarn I've got left. But even I'm sitting there thinking, I'm coming to the end of section 1 and I've got all this left. Because I think the pattern calls for 290 meters of yarn and I had 310. So I've got 20 meters spare, which isn't a massive amount of yarn. So I was like, okay, this isn't, I don't know. So there is a happy ending to this story, I promise. So knowing that I was going to be recording my blog, I didn't rip this out. I've left this. And what I'll do is I will use it. If I need this yarn, I will use this almost like a sock blank. I'll pull it off the needles and I'll just knit straight off this when I get to the end section. So what I did was then I got home and I didn't put it in the naughty, I did put it in the naughty corner for 2 days maybe. But I then got 10mm needles and it was a message from band. I was just checking there was no like change to rehearsal time. Sorry, that was very rude of me. I interrupted the conversation. I'm not editing it out. I'll leave it in. It's fine. So I moved up to a 10mm needle and I restarted. And what a difference. A difference to the fabric, but also just a different, that's the start. So if I try and, the yarn is really busy, so this is quite difficult to show this. And if you read my written blog, which comes out on a Monday, you'll have had this. This was last week's written blog. But if I just hold those two together, already you can see, I think I've done 4 rows. No, 6 rows. 6 or 7 rows. But already you can see the difference in the size between like how far down I am here versus how far I am. So the stitches are a lot bigger and I've pretty much got gauge. I think I'm half a stitch out, which when I wash it, I will gain that slight extra stitch. So there we go, a tale of two shawls for this month that I did quite a lot of knitting, but actually, as I said, because 8mm needles originally and a super chunky yarn, this was about, let's call it 4 hours for easy maths. That was about 4 hours of knitting. So I don't feel like I've wasted a lot of time. But how many times do you all tell me, make sure you swatch? And I know some of you are team swatch and some of you are not, and I'm usually in the not. I think if I'm swatching for a jumper for me or for Mark, then I absolutely would swatch. But doing something like this, that's a shawl, I don't tend to swatch any of my shawls. I just go with a needle that's recommended in the pattern. The only thing I did do is I didn't swatch it, but the pattern called for a 4mm needle, but I went for the 4.5 just because I knew that the wool was a little bit thicker than what I would usually expect for a finger and weight yarn. But usually with the mystery knit alongs, I just do a 3.5mm needle and off I go. That's what's usually in the pattern. So I know I could have preempted this. And in hindsight, I was talking to Nish because I had to share the drama with her. It's like, oh my God, look what I've done. And she said, well, I'm surprised that the pattern says for an 8mm because when Nish knits on these, on this wool, she always uses a 10mm or a 12mm. Now, part of me is then like, I should have messaged her before. But again, I just blindly trust the pattern. So the designer used an 8mm. That's what she lists in the pattern. So I used 8mm. But we've restarted, so I haven't made any more progress on it because I've now been overtaken by my blanket, which I'm obsessed with, and I'm so close to finishing. I think it's because when I get to weigh the blanket out, it's going to be like over 600 grams. This weighing in and out is going to be very, very motivational to try and finish things. Mark's jumper will make an appearance now because I can tick it off. But I haven't made any more progress on this yet, but I will hopefully try and make some progress on this during February. But I kind of wanted to just make sure that I could talk about it in this week's blog as well and share with you the highs and lows of this blanket, this shawl. So I'm hoping that I will now start to use much more of this gorgeous wool. And I said, based on gauge, I should only have very little of this left at the end. So we'll see where we get to. But it was definitely a lesson in learning to love to swatch. I've dropped it now, sorry. So yeah, definitely a lesson in learning to love about swatching, which I know. So all of you team swatchers out there are now going to be tutting at me, and that is absolutely fine. I am happy to sit in my naughtiness of not swatching, and that is a great reason why we should. Okay, so my other whip. So the other thing that I've been really, really focusing on, I talked a lot in February about mental health and anxiety and knitting and crocheting or crafting for calm and for peace. And that's partly why I reviewed the Hooks and Needle box, because I really loved what they were running a campaign. It really spoke to me and my own personal journey and what I want to get out of my knitting and the reasons why I knit. But work has been really, really busy for the last 3 or 4 months. There is some light at the end of the tunnel. I think I can see things slowing down slightly. But there were a couple of days the week before last when I kind of came home and knowing how I feel after I've been crafting, I wanted something really mindless. So I actually grabbed my crochet blanket, which I hadn't worked on since October last year, maybe. So this is the sampler blanket by Toft. It is a pattern from it's stuck. It's a pattern in the Toft Quarterly magazine. And it is the Roma, I think it's called the Roman sampler blanket. Yes. So I'm doing mine mostly in stash yarn. I had to buy 100. I had to buy 100 grams of silver. That's not silver, that's steel. I had to buy 100 grams of silver though to finish the border and the one section. But pretty much all the rest of this is from my stash. Mark chose the colours. I wasn't enamoured with the colours when he chose them. He wanted neutrals because it's nicer for the flat. I wanted blues with flashes of colour. But I think it really, really works. So this is the blanket. And I really wanted to do something crochet that was just quite mindless a few weeks ago, where I could just pick it up, really easy pattern repeats, and I could make some progress on this project as well. So it's got, I think there's 6 different stitch types. Like we've got that the oatmeal section there in the middle of the shot. That is front post, back post trebles. The cream section then, you've got waffle stitch. Lots of different types you've got crisscross trebles. So lots of different stitch types. And I think there's 5 or 6 different stitch types. And it's based on a similar concept to a log cabin. Is it called a log cabin blanket? The knitted version where you just knit 10s and then you change direction. So you basically start in the center here with this panel, then you knit that section, you turn it 90 degrees, you knit that section 90 degrees. And the whole thing is basically 6 rounds. So I'm on the 6th round. I'm so close to getting this finished. So I just finished this cream section. So when you finish, this was the waffles, basket stitch, I think this was. So you finish that section and then you turn the blanket 90 degrees and you start the next section. So I've just picked up the stitches, or I've crocheted the stitches for the start of the next section. So there are 6 rounds and each round is made up of 4 panels. So this is panel 3 on round 6. So I'm so close. I've had such fun working on this project. I think when I would have shown it off last, I was probably around here. I think I had rounds 4, 5 and 6 to go. I don't think I'd finished round 4 when I showed it off last. I'm not sure, but I've kind of was close. I don't know why I stopped working on it. I got distracted by something else, probably, knowing me. But yeah, so I've got this section here, which is more of the front post, back post trebles. So this camel section, or oatmeal section, sorry, here. That one there. And then the final section is another bobble section. But I think it's vertical bobbles. I don't know where the vertical bobbles are. It's some bobbles anyway. And then just a border. So my plan is to finish working on this. So I'm gonna take this to band with me today. I've got 4 hours of rehearsal, but we'll have like a half-hour break in the middle at some point. So it's perfect for picking up and putting down. And as I said, it's been really soothing and really relaxing to work on this in the last few weeks. So I'm really, really happy. Yeah. And Mark chose the colours, as I said, so it's a really lovely neutral palette of lots of different browns and creams and greys, and I think it goes so well together. It's going to need a good block, and Kerry talks about that in the video, because some of the panels are different widths and height. They're all roughly the same. They're all 6 rows, I think, but some of the stitches are slightly wider. So this is probably a wider stitch than, say, that section there, which is why it kind of, in some of the, when you hold it, it kind of pulls in a little bit, but that will absolutely relax out. So when it gets blocked, I'll be able to make sure that it's square. All of the sections are neatly lined up. And yeah, in the pattern book, it says 600 grams of yarn. My tension, didn't check it. I ran out of, what did I run out of? I ran out of cream on the last one. Now, luckily, I've still got some cream with the same dye lot in my stash. But I then checked my gauge and I'm like 1 centimetre out. So I think on my gauge, your gauge swatch is this center panel here, those two there. And I think it's meant to be 13 stitches and mine are 14 stitches. 13 centimeters and mine's 14 centimeters, which then when you gross that up on all the panels, that will be why I've used slightly more yarn on some of them than I have on others. Or because it was stash yarn, it wasn't a full ball, that I kind of used a little bit of it and I put the label back on it. That probably has happened. That has happened on some things as well. So yeah, I'm using this all from stash apart from the silver, which I didn't have enough of. So I bought 100 grams of silver. So the fact that this is going to be over 600 grams of yarn, I think, and I've done it all from stash, that's going to really help the spreadsheet. But I really love it. I'm so happy with how it's turned out. I haven't done my ends yet. There's not that many of them. There's an end every time you change colour, obviously. So yeah, so I'm hoping this will be finished this week. I will definitely get this fourth one finished today. And then maybe it's taken me about an hour and a half per section now, because the sections are quite big. We're up to 140 stitches, I think. And I'm not the fastest of crochet. I'm not as fast as, I can knit quicker than I can crochet. So I think maybe Monday, Tuesday, I might get the fourth one done. And then Wednesday, Thursday, I can do the border. And the border is just a round of trebles, grannies. What is the border? Yeah, it's just a round of trebles. So what I might do is I'll see how much, I'll weigh my silver. I'm going to do my border in silver. I'll weigh the silver, do a round of border, and then see how much silver I got. I might do 2 rounds of border, we'll see. But it's a really lovely size for the lap blanket. So that's going to be top of the list to get finished this week. You heard it here first. Can this be the thumbnail maybe? Yeah, that could be the thumbnail. So, that's going to be my main my first focus during March. The other project I want to get done during March is I'm making a hat. I did show this yarn off in the Unravel video. Niece 2 wants a hat. Sorry, I moved the camera. I'm just going to quickly show you the hat pattern so that you can see it. I'm just minimizing things on my Mac because then it saves me having to edit it and put the picture in. So it is the Colour Twister Beanie. So it's a pattern by Kerry of Toft, and I'm making it in the colours that it comes, that the pattern states. So I've got cream and violet, and it's got this really cute and super fluffy pom-pom. So Olivia messaged and said, would I make it a hat with a removable pom-pom? She chose the pattern. I sent it to the Toft website. And then I saw Tash and Emma at Unravel, so I picked that up. So I'm going to start that this week as well, because I think that's a nice little project to be able to have on the needles, because I think it's just slip stitches is the main part of the pattern. So I'm going to get that started in March. The other thing then that's happening in March is my annual unofficial doll-along for Toft. So Toft, every year they have a subscription club, their doll club, and we have 3 dolls throughout the year. It's a thrice annual, 3 times a year, Making Women Who Made History series. And in previous years, we've had Emmeline Pankhurst and Rosa Parks and Wangari Maathai and Junko Taibe. They're all famous women from history. And it's a really, really lovely club. There are 15 of them so far, and I think I've made 6. And what I try to do every March is we do a community crochet along, where if you make any Toft doll, so it can be a full-size doll, it can be a mini doll, one of the special dolls like Santa Claus, or from one of the previous magazines, there's like a cozy cabin doll. As long as you make an official as long as you make a doll using a Toft pattern, it doesn't need to be Toft wool, but it needs to be a Toft pattern, you can enter my make-along over on Instagram or TikTok this year as well and win some prizes. And this year's prizes, we've got a selection of pin badges. So each of the dolls and their pattern comes with you can purchase a pin badge that goes with that doll. And Kerry's very kindly gifted me a full set of the 15 pins and a pennant to display them on. That's first prize. Second prize are the 3 new pins that have been released this year. And then we've got some runners-up prizes of some Marie Curie pins. So if you've done that and joined along in previous years, let me know over on Instagram or TikTok if you're going to join in. It's going to start on International Women's Day, which is next weekend, the 8th of March. And will run until the end of April. So one of the other projects I'm going to start in March will be the new doll. I don't know who she is yet. It hasn't yet been dispatched. She should be dispatched around International Women's Day. So hopefully I'll start my doll next weekend. I'm going to set myself a stretch goal as well, because I said I've made 6 of the 15. So of course, we're now going to get another 3 this year. So there's going to be 18 of them. So I will have made 7 of the 18. I am going to try and make a second one, and I'll grab one from the backlog that I've got, and I will try and make another one. So I'm going to try and see if I can do 2 dolls in March. I was chatting to my good friend Reese, and he suggested maybe I try and make them all. He's like, but you could do them in a production line and do like 7 arms, 14 arms and 14 legs and 14 bodies, and I'm not sure I can do that. I like the idea of a challenge, and maybe that'll be like a video in May time, where I'll see like how many dolls can I make in a week and see if I can catch up on some of the backlog. I'm not going to be able to make 7, absolutely not. But maybe something like that would be quite funny to see where we get to. But I'm going to start the new doll then in March. So if you want to join in with the make along, as long as it is an official Toft pattern, I said if you don't use Instagram, or TikTok, please drop me an email. I'll pop the email address below, and you can drop me an email and you can send your submission. All finished dolls will be entered into the draw. So it's a very easy make along. You just need to make a Toft doll. Tag me in the finished, your completed doll, and then we will enter them into a random prize draw. So I'm going to work on that during March. Hat, doll, maybe finish my blanket, and then Mark's jumper is going to make an appearance. It is. So now I've finished some shawls. I've got some headspace to get into something more complicated. It will be towards the end of the month when I've got a few things in work for the next couple of weeks that I just need to have some peace for. So towards the end of the month, we've got a couple of quiet weekends coming up at the end of the month after all the band things and all the rest of it. So I will dig Mark's jumper out. So in the April roundup for sure, Mark's jumper will make an appearance, and we'll show you where it is. If you are new here and you have no idea what I'm talking about, it is the most gorgeous but complicated all over intarsia sweater. And I've been knitting it for about 4 years. I get motivated and I work on it, and then I put it down and it doesn't see the light of day for about 18 months. So I'm not gonna finish it in this month, but I will dust it off and get back to it. So stay tuned. And I think that's it. There will be something else, but more on that in next week's video, I think. Either next week or the week after this video. So there'll be another new project, but that's my year long. Month by month, I'm going to try and do something. Stay tuned. And I'm not trying to be cryptic, but there's a video, I'm doing a project video where I explain more about what I'm trying to do and how the video series is going to work and all the rest of it. So that will come in a couple of weeks' time. If not next week. We'll see how much progress I make this week, basically. So I think that's it. That's quite a lot. 2 finished objects. Going to start a couple of new things. Going to finish my blanket. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to have a little sit down now. It's very warm in here with the blinds closed and the door closed. It is quite hot, but 10 to 2, so I'm going to have something quickly for food before I head off to band. So thank you very much for being here and watching this roundup. Please let me know what you think of the projects that I finished. Did you finish your Hibernate Knit Along? I know lots of you were joining in. Have you finished yours? How do you find it? Do you like it? If you have finished any of the other MCALs, like, let me know what you've been working on, basically. Have you finished projects that you started? What are you working on? Or what did you set yourself any plans for February? Did you achieve them? Let me know in the comments below. It'll be great to hear from the other side of the camera and hear about what you've been working on. What are your crafting plans for March? Let me know. Again, wonderful to hear what you lovely folks are getting up to. So if you've made it this far and you don't subscribe, hit that subscribe button. It's free for you and helps me to grow my community. Little plug, we've not done that for a while. There's loads of you here. It's just wonderful. And as I say all the time, I'll keep making videos as long as you folks keep watching them. So it's lovely to have you here. So thank you very much for staying to the end and giving me some of your time today. I've had a really busy month with everything personally and at work and crafting, but actually I love these roundup videos where I then just get to grab everything and go, actually, do you know what? You did a good job. You did a lot. Because sometimes I'm like, oh, what am I going to film? What am I going to talk about? I haven't done anything. And actually, I've done quite a lot. So I need to be easier on myself, I think. That I don't feel like I knit enough, crochet enough. I end up wasting time on Instagram and TikTok and all the rest of it. So yeah, I feel like I've done quite a lot. So I feel let's end this video on a positive note. So please let me know in the comments below what you've been up to. I'd love to hear from you. I'll be back next week with a video of some kind. It will either be the video that I'm project recording, or it will just be a bit of a chat about how my month has gone so far. It's my birthday this week. My birthday is on Wednesday. I could treat myself to a birthday cast on, couldn't I? What could that be? That's not the things I've talked about. We'll see. I don't know. Now my mind's just gone, ooh, birthday cast on. That could be an annual thing then, couldn't it? Because it starts something new on my birthday. From my stash though, we're not buying yarn. Remember, gotta get that spreadsheet. Birthday socks. Oh, birthday socks, because I bought yarn from James Makes Things at Yarningham to make his bubble socks. Could do some socks. We'll see. Maybe I'll do some birthday socks. I'm not sure. Come back next week and find out. Right, I'm going to end this video there. Thank you so much for being here. As always, I really do appreciate you all giving me your time and watching my videos. Have lovely weeks. You're watching this Monday afternoon. Have lovely weeks and hope that you get some gentle crafting time. That's going to be my plan this week, is to have some downtime every day and do some crafting, finish some projects, start some things. All the fun reasons why you're here. So thank you very much. Have a lovely week. I will be back next week. So until we speak again, happy crafting. Oh, no. Are you still there? Stay tuned for the shawl dance, because I know some of you have asked, will there be a shawl dance? So I hope you're still there, because hopefully the video won't have cut out. So now let's go and do the shawl dance and then happy crafting.